allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I thank thee, Lord, as a volunteer for the chance to serve another year and to give of myself in some small way to those not blessed as I each day. My thanks for health in mind and soul to aid me ever toward my goal, for eyes to see the good in all and hand to extend before a fall, for legs to go where the need is great, learning to love, forgetting to hate, for ears to hear and heart to care when someone's cross is hard to bear, a smile to show my affection true, with energy aplenty the task to do. And all I ask, dear Lord, if I may, is to serve you better day by day and to bless all of us here and all those who serve the community and for peace in the world. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You know what? Let's take a moment of silence and pray for the people who are impacted by hatred, that are impacted by war, and by weather conditions in your own community. Let's not forget those communities. Just a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Then when our food comes and whatever else, I want everybody, I want to thank you for coming. We had a lot of RSVPs, but everybody's not here yet, so we're just going to move on. I want everyone to make sure that the envelopes that you receive with the tickets in it, that you share it with your organization. I mean, we only have 6 weeks left for the citizen time. Time is flying, and we really need to get all those reservations in. So if anyone has any questions, give me a call, email me, whatever, but we do need to get those tables. So, and all of our clubs do need to participate. Okay? So that's an expectation that we do have. Does anybody have anything else that's going on? I know we had the dust thing with Civitan.
No,
How's you all doing?
we sold over $1,500 worth of ducks, and we're still selling them to support the Veterans Living Services. So it's a great organization.
How can we get to show that if you buy ducks, it's simple can,
You have to get the Civitan envelopes. Then we get, because they're all numbered.
Okay.
With Civitan, I put a whole package of envelopes right on the desk out there by the mirror.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
you know, when you're going out, and you can go online. It's in our newsletter, online. You just click on it and pay with a credit card. Okay. But if you want, I'll go and get some envelopes.
Did your package machine go well?
It was a success. The food was awesome. Seriously.
We were out of town.
We got, Domino's had a special, and we got 12 pizzas, and we had 4 left over. We donated to a memorial for someone that passed away from Elks Club. The Elks Club was awesome. They served us behind the bar, and they donated the room for us. A really nice place. They have a program. They're really reasonable, and they actually donated. It was at the Elks Lodges on Old Square Pike, 2880 We can't hear you. If you could, please speak much louder.
Able, LAWO is having study at Reading here, and they did a WD3, and he was now. Instead of being at the others last. Yeah, I think it's like UD, and it's September 4th, but I'm in the month of October, and happy, so everybody can. Yeah, you know, so everybody can come.
Good, okay. Anybody else? Yes.
Some great things are happening in September on the west side of Dayton. You're going to be seeing a motorcycle ride. Police escorted on September 7th, leaving the VA campus at around 1. And that's to take care of our honor squad members that should be a full burial. And then following week is the Patriot Salute Festival, free and open, so it'll all be first car show. But more importantly, September the 16th, that wonderful statue you might have been hearing about for the last 5 years will actually be having a ribbon cutting at 3 o'clock, September the 16th in Dayton.
Which statue?
It's Abraham Lincoln, who actually was the founder of our programs that we now do in the VA, and what our members who have had service, he signed in the GI Bill,
Yeah.
and he also served in what we now know as the VA healthcare system. And he just did that 1 month before he was assassinated. So that was featured in his second inaugural address. So we think it's something special, and this leads into what's going to happen in Dayton. I'm hearing more, they're leaning to have the 100 in 2030, they hope to have this new great big building built, to be part of the feature, to be the national site for VA history. In other words, VA National Archives will be right here in our backyard, and hopefully that will be bringing in more groups and everything else, for hospitality and everything else. So that's sort of, so this statue is this halfway point.
That's awesome.
Really nice.
We have to get that information in the newsletter for the September events,
We really did.
okay?
And that's the other organization I belong to, but, and then you all know about the women's stuff, just check the, our
Yeah,
website,
your
because we
website.
are really going to be bombarded in September, and you're all welcome.
Yeah, we put that always in the newsletter is the, women's club information.
Yes, I just want to thank Mr. B. A few years ago, the Lions Club blessed my agency with Christmas tours for my clients. And I just want to, acknowledge that. And I'm glad you're all hearing that. I'm still here. They really appreciate it. They gave out just so many tours for children and families of that. That's a lot of and then you came to my event and everything. It was awesome. Thank you.
That's good. I like to hear that support.
I will ask, if you're speaking, you have to speak loudly.
Can you hear me now?
The reason is, we're gonna be up against the next program. And we're trying to record this, so if you don't speak loudly, you won't get recorded.
You want to say it all over again?
Yes. No. I'm only kidding.
This is a recording.
Yeah, and, Bernice.
Okay, on, September 28th, Twin Cities will have our 100. Well,
48, 49, something like that.
Well, anyway, it's our annual fundraiser, and, for the last 3 years, we've had kind of a country western type thing. This year, we're gonna kind of follow suit, to put a spin on it. We're gonna do this, the theme is denim and diamond. So everyone come out, join us for, our event, where there's diamond and your denim. The tickets are $65. I don't know if it's come yet. Have you got anything from Pam?
I haven't gotten anything.
No.
Okay, all right, well, I'll see Pam today, I'll make sure that we get that to you. But that's coming up on September 28th, Saturday, September 28th.
So that's always fun too, country and western.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else? Okay, everybody has their food So let's take a few minutes and eat, and then after that, we'll have our guest speaker. Would that be okay? Okay. So let's go ahead and eat our lunch, and then we'll have our speaker. We'll be right on time. Okay. Sorry, Austin. Okay.
You Bill?
Thank you.
You Bill? Yeah. That's me.
And well, we start over. Okay. All right. Austin Chaney is the chief meteorologist for WHIO and Storm Center 7. He returns to WHIO after serving as a meteorologist at WSOC, WHIO's sister station in Charlotte, North Carolina. Austin's passion for weather began when at an early age, he was fascinated by meteorology. He started giving weather forecasts on his school's morning newscast in middle school. Isn't that something? When he was just 12 years old. It was then that Austin realized he wanted to be a TV meteorologist. Correct? Austin pursued his passion at the University of Georgia, where he earned degrees in atmospheric sciences and geography. During his studies, he interned at WSB-TV in Atlanta, the station he grew up watching. His on-air career began shortly after in Macon, Georgia, at WMAZ-TV. While there, he earned the prestigious Certified Broadcast Meteorologist distinction from the American Meteorological Society, becoming the youngest meteorologist to do so. Well, a hand for that. After nearly 3 years at WMAZ, Austin was ready for a new challenge and joined WHIO and Storm Center 7 for the first time in 2021. During his initial tenure, he covered the full spectrum of extreme weather in the Miami Valley, which we offered tornadoes, flooding, heat waves, and snowstorms. In addition to his meteorological duties, he also hosted WHIO's Touchdown 7 high school football highlight show. That should have been fun. In 2023, Austin was promoted to WSOC in Charlotte, North Carolina. However, he returned to WHIO in August of 2023, stepping into the role of chief meteorologist. Austin is thrilled to lead Storm Center 7 to bring the latest weather updates to the Miami Valley, rain or shine. He returns with his wife, Lily, their 2 cats, Joel and Ridley, their dog, Magnolia, and the baby that is in the oven, almost ready to enter the world. I think in November. October, even sooner. Austin made the comment that he couldn't be more excited to return to WHIO and is honored to be our chief meteorologist. He went on to say that he is thrilled to make the Miami Valley his home for years to come. Let's give Austin a hand.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you to Veronica for inviting me out to lunch today to speak with everybody. Glad to be here. I've got some slides that I want to show you, and what we can do today is I'll tell you about myself, what I do as a chief meteorologist here at Channel 7. We'll talk about how the weather patterns across the Miami Valley have started to change a bit in recent years and what that may look like going forward. But I don't like to stand up and talk for forever, so after I give my spiel, I'll just answer any questions that you have, and we can have a nice little conversation here. Sound good?
Great.
All right. So as Veronica mentioned, I'm the chief meteorologist here at WHIO-TV, Channel 7 in Dayton, Ohio. And do you have a clicker I could use? Or I'll just come up there and tab it so that you can enjoy your lunch.
I'm done.
Oh, okay. You go ahead. Yeah, if you just want to turn it to me, I can just click through it. So Veronica gave everybody the crash course here. But I did not grow up in Ohio. I'm from North Georgia. I grew up in this little town outside of Atlanta, Auburn, Georgia. My first job definitely wasn't working in TV news. I worked for Chick-fil-A for 5 years at a couple different places before I got in TV. So I highly respect everybody that works in food service because it's an incredibly tough job. I went to college at the University of Georgia. Has anybody visited that campus before? I mean, it's a beautiful campus. I love it. Yeah, that is. Bulldogs. And that's where I met my wife, Lily. Lily is also a degreed meteorologist. So that's pretty cool. It was a very small meteorology program at the time, and so everybody kind of got close, and I wound up with Lily. But Lily, after dabbling in weather, she decided she didn't want to do that. So she went back to school, got a master's in teaching, so she's a 5th grade teacher. Here are our 3 pets. This is Ridley, Joel, Magnolia, and then as Veronica mentioned, we have a baby on the way that is due in 7 weeks. So that'll be our first shot. All right, so how I got here, TV news involves a lot of moving around. Most people that you watch on TV are not from the city that they're reporting the news in. And that's pretty true here at Channel 7. It's been true everywhere that I've worked. And so the way that we wound up in this role, interned at WSB-TV, because after you get a degree in meteorology, a TV station needs to see what you're capable of. And so I went there, learned how to do the job, made a demo reel, sent that out to TV stations. And I was pretty fortunate to get my first job in my home state, but a lot of people end up moving across the country for their first job. So that was pretty nice. In TV news, you advance your career by moving up in market size or position. And so after my first contract at WMAZ, I wanted to move up and had the opportunity to come here to WHIO, which was pretty cool because it's the sister station to WSB and WSOC, which are some really, really good dominant TV stations. So Channel 7 was a great opportunity. I was here for almost 2 years before a job opened at SOC, and so I took that opportunity thinking that I'd probably spend the rest of my career at WSOC. But it only took a few months, and McCall, had an opportunity to go elsewhere, and the chief meteorologist job opened. We still had our house here, and if you get a chance to be a chief meteorologist, that's the best position in my career field. And so I applied, interviewed, got it, and came back after only 6 months in Charlotte, which was pretty wild. So on the map, see, it's a lot of movement. I'm from North Georgia. My wife is from this corner of Georgia down here. But we live way up here in Dayton, Ohio, but we love living here. It is. We've really fallen in love with it since we've been here. So what I do every day is more than just get up on the screen and talk for 2.5 minutes. I get to work every day at about 2 o'clock and go through the forecast. And to me, it's the most fun part of my job. So I look at a bunch of different maps and charts that look like this, and I know I'm kind of covering up that one. So I don't know if you can move that. You can just show people what it looks like real quick. That's okay. We'll go back. That's okay. So I look at, you got to understand the current state of the atmosphere before you make a forecast. So we look at all the current conditions from the ground all the way to the top of the troposphere. After we know what's happening right now and we know what we think should happen based on those initial conditions, we go through all the forecast models. I make my forecast, write it down on a piece of paper. After I know what I'm going to talk about for the day, then we have to go through and make all the weather graphics so that everything looks nice and pretty for TV. And so this is what you see every day on TV. We're WHIO-TV and radio, so I give the forecast for all of our radio partners. And that's a lot of radio hits that we have to tape every day at about 3 o'clock. And then, since I'm the chief meteorologist, If there's any decision-making that has to be done about how we're going to cover a weather event, how seriously or how aggressively we need to get the word out about something, I get to lead that decision-making. I also make the schedules for our team. News is a 24/7, 365 operation, and so we always have to staff a meteorologist to be on for the live newscast, but also in case there's severe weather, somebody has to be there. And then occasionally I do report on weather-related stories, and then that's how I met Veronica, as we were highlighting a house that she was selling and a project they were working on in Trotwood to build a tornado-resistant home. And so probably about 3 or 4 times a year I work on stuff like that. Schedules in TV news are pretty crazy. So if you're an early riser and you watch our morning newscast, that starts at 4:25 in the morning, but the morning meteorologist is there at about 2 in the morning to start doing everything they need to do to get that newscast on the air. So Brittany's our morning meteorologist. She gets up probably 12:30 in the morning. To me, that's the toughest shift in TV news. On a normal day, when everybody is working and not on vacation, she would get to leave at 10 in the morning. We have a dayside meteorologist, which is the like normal 9 to 5 type job if there is one in TV news. So one of our weekend meteorologists will work 3 days during the week from about 9:30 in the morning to 6:30 in the evening. And then the night side meteorologist is usually the chief meteorologist. So that's what I do. And I get to work at 2 in the afternoon. We work, through the 11 o'clock newscast. During the Democratic National Convention, we work till 1 in the morning until everybody gets done talking. So, we have some late nights, but normally between the 6 p.m. newscast and 11 p.m. newscast, we all go home. So we do get a chance to have dinner with our families as long as the weather is not active. And so that's the breakdown of how the shifts work, and we have to staff that all the time. At the end of the day, though, the most important thing that we do is keep everybody safe from tornadoes. So this was a screenshot from March 14th, which will probably, hopefully, stay the craziest day of my career for quite some time. That's when the EF3 tornado tore through Indian Lake. We had another EF3 tornado coming out of Randolph County in Indiana. I think that night we had 7 or 8 pretty strong tornadoes. So that was a crazy night and what has been a crazy severe weather season across the Miami Valley. So behind the scenes stuff. So if you're watching the news, sometimes you can see this off to my left when you're watching. This is our weather center where we make the forecast graphics and everything. So we've got a lot of computers. The 2 computers over here on the right, this is our barren weather radar. So when we're tracking tornadoes, we're using this system here. This is called MAX. This is where we make all the forecast graphics. And then there's just some regular computers further off towards the left there. So when I'm working on my show every day to figure out what it's going to look like for TV, this is the screen that I'm looking at. It looks like a PowerPoint presentation, but each one of these boxes over here is called a scene. And when you go into the scene, anything that you could think of visually, you can make with this program. So it's a super powerful tool, more so than just a 7-day forecast and maps. So we like to be creative here. We have all the 3D weather graphics that we've built that pop up out of the desk sometimes, so we can put ourselves in what's called a virtual reality set, where it looks like we're standing in a room that isn't really there. And so we can do some really, really cool stuff with this program. That's the weather desk. That's where we do some of the shorter weather segments, either the teases or the 1-minute 3D weathers that come out of the desk. That's the anchor desk, so that's where James and Cheryl and Gabby and Letitia and Nick all sit and read the news. This is a green screen, and it's actually pretty big. It comes out about 4 feet from the back of the wall. I stand on this dashed line here, and then if we are doing one of those virtual reality segments, I'll step back into the green so that we can make the floor disappear, and we can stand in whatever we put ourselves in. And then I see what I'm pointing at from these TV screens on either side of the key wall, and this one big TV screen in front of me. And so yeah,
It looks like you're actually touching it, but it's
at this TV station, I'm never actually touching the wall. It may look like it, I try to make it look like it, but I'm standing about this far away from the key wall. When I worked in Charlotte, the space that you had to walk around was like from me to you, and you were on the wall. So every place is different. Our setup is big here. Other TV stations, that's not necessarily the case. This is called the Mon Wall. If you notice behind the anchors, this constantly changes during the newscast to match whatever they're talking about to enhance the storytelling a bit more. A lot of TV stations will just have something solid behind their anchors, but we change this constantly throughout the show. This is what the anchors see. There are 3 robotic cameras that sit in front of them. Here's my key wall over here. The teleprompter person is back here in the shadows over there. So that's a vantage point you've probably never seen before. And then this is what you see. You know, the Mon Wall changing behind James and Cheryl. You've got our reporters live out in the field. You've got me giving the weather. And it's a fun time. Now, one of the things Veronica asked me to speak about a little bit is how our climate in Ohio is changing. And a TV meteorologist, for the most part, is not an expert in climate change. So I didn't study much about climate when I was in college. I'm a meteorologist. So my focus is, over the next 7 days, what is our forecast going to be? But most TV meteorologists know enough to be dangerous about climate change. So, you know, without getting into, like, necessarily what's causing it and all that kind of stuff, we can look at the numbers, because the numbers don't really lie about how things around here are a bit different. And so when we were getting just nailed by tornado after tornado earlier this spring, our team sat down to try to figure out, was there a reason behind this, or is it just some bad luck that we have seen these increase in tornado counts across Ohio? And what we saw that was interesting was this. When you look at the springtime temperatures from March, April, and May, and you go back, we only went back to 1950, but if you go back from 1950 to now, those temperatures are rising at a pretty slow rate, but enough that's noticeable. So at about 0.4 degrees Fahrenheit per decade. We also dug in and looked at the dew point temperatures. So dew point is the measure of moisture in the atmosphere. When it's a very sticky day outside, your dew points are high. When your lips are chapped, the dew points are typically low. These dew point temperatures are increasing at a rate of 0.2 degrees per decade. And so even though that sounds very, very small, it's a significant number, because a warmer, more moist air mass is more unstable. It wants to rise. And so that could lead to stronger thunderstorms. And I can tell you just by going through weather forecasting, if you're forecasting a day that could be potentially severe, if your temperature is 75 degrees versus 72 degrees, that can make a huge difference in how strong those storms are. So if we're seeing those warmer temperatures in the more moist environment more frequently, it can lead to stronger thunderstorms. There's an organization called Climate Central, and they put out maps like this. They do all kinds of climate research to try to make maps an easy way understand presentations for everybody. And their data backs up what we found this spring. So this map shows the change in tornado favorable days per decade going back to 1979. And you see much of the Miami Valley is highlighted in this very light orange, which is a number 1. And that's actually significant because tornadoes, they don't happen every day. They often happen in bunches a few days out of the year. So if we're averaging an additional day per year that's more favorable for those types of conditions, well, that could mean 10 extra tornadoes across the state of Ohio. And then you get years like this year, which are pretty exceptional, but we've had 70 so far this year. And so the severe weather numbers are kind of concerning when you look at the last, especially 10 years here in Ohio. So, did some numbers crunching on that as well. So, state of Ohio, going back as far back as our records go, which for tornadoes, I think went back all the way to the late 1800s. The state averages 21 tornado touchdowns per year. This year we've had 70, and it's only August. And we could have more when we get into October and November, when we start changing in the fall. That's the second season for tornadoes. Not only have we broken a record so far this year at 70, but we have shattered the previous record of 62 tornadoes in 1992. The last tornado that touched down in 92 was in November. That's where they got to number 62. So this year has been not only record-setting, but pretty exceptional. When you look at numbers more recently, not just going back to the beginning of the record books, Since 2016, we've only had 1 year with below normal tornado counts, and that was 2016. Somehow the state only ended up with 7. 6 years since then have had above normal tornado touchdowns, and so for above normal, we meant like 4 or 5, basically 26 tornadoes or more per year, 4 or 5 more than the average. Only 2 years have been around average, around 21, and in some of these years, I mean, the counts are just off the charts. Everybody remembers Memorial Day in 2019? That year in 2019 had 58 touchdowns. We had 56 last year, and we've had 70 so far this year. So I do think there is some validity to thinking that the small increase in temperature and the small increase in dew point has led to the increase in tornado touchdowns.
Austin, is there anything on the severity of
Well,
the tornado? And I don't mean not to minimize it, but you
Yeah.
could, I don't know, have
no, that's a valid question.
like a number 1 and out touchdown for 10 seconds in an empty field that causes no damage versus
Right.
the ones in 2019 and the ones this year in
Yeah.
Logan County and Indian Lake.
So to fully answer your question, I have to do a little more research. Most tornadoes that touch down in Ohio, over 80% of them are EF0 and EF1s. That's pretty consistent across the country. Strongest we've had this year was an EF3. Strongest we had in 2019 was an EF4 that came through Burkeville and Chocolate. So they're not necessarily much stronger, but from what I can tell early on, but they're there. But even if it's just a brief week tornado, because of how they can loft debris, they're still dangerous. The other thing that's interesting about these numbers is, okay, in 2011, all the radar technology changed. We got what's called dual pole radar. Prior to 2011, the radar beams only went out horizontal. Now they go out horizontal and vertical. The significance of that is with having a beam that goes out in 2 different directions, you can see the shape of the objects that are in the air. So now we have that slide I showed you with that blue dot. Let's go back to this. This is called correlation coefficient. So everywhere that you have these lighter colors, the reds and the yellows, it's likely just raindrops. And the radar is saying this is high correlation with raindrops. We have the blue, the radar is saying this looks like tree leaves and debris from houses, cars, etc. We couldn't do that prior to 2011. So that could lead to more tornado counts. But it seems also the number of tornado days is also going up. So it's not just that we can more easily detect the weak ones, it's that the conditions are there more often.
And is it in certain parts of Ohio? That
Our
map
part,
made
yeah.
it look sort of more south.
Yeah, because when you look at, a lot of times when you get a severe weather setup, you'll have low pressure coming through right about here, northern Illinois, southern Michigan, and there'll be a warm you get stopped up from lifting past, like coldness. So our part of Ohio has always seen more tornadoes than the rest of the state, and yeah, we're primarily the counties that are highlighted in those. Us counties highlighted in that as you go northeast. So that was the tornado stat page. Now a lot of people, I know a lot of people don't ask me about tornado counts increasing as the climate change concern right now. A lot of people will just complain, we don't get snow anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. It does still snow. So last night, because I was like, is there any other angle to this? Last night I went and looked at all the tornado records, or all the snowfall yearly records back to 1894. And this black line here is the 30-year moving average. To me, this is not much change in the amount of snowfall that we're seeing each year with the small increases in temperature. Dayton averages about 25 inches for snow each year. That has been pretty consistent since about 94. For a while there was actually an increasing amount of snow. But you see prior to that, it was decreasing from the late 19-teens all the way to the 1940s. So to me, that's not a significant change.
Does that show the amount of snow?
So the blue line is the yearly amount. So we've had 3 years.
Like, is it an inch of snow or 3 inches?
Yeah. So the scale over here on the left, this is inches of snow.
Okay.
The blue line is the yearly, and the black line is the moving 30-year average, because we like to look at least 30 years of data to see if there's an actual trend.
I remember see where the tallest dot is?
Yeah, it's
78.
78.
Because I was gonna come to Dayton from Toledo.
Yeah.
And because they wanted to promote me, and I had to come to Dayton.
Yeah.
And I got up, and I said, so I called, and they said, oh, no, stay in Dayton. Toledo. He says, we got a lot of snow here, too.
Is 78 when the Ohio River froze over in Cincinnati? Yeah, I've seen a lot of pictures, seeing pictures of people standing in front of Riverfront Stadium on the rivers.
Now, here's what I noticed.
Maybe driving their cars before their hands can get out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's not,
that's crazy.
I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, and I went to school there, and I noticed that Thanksgiving was always blizzards and snow, and it's changed in the last quite a few years.
Yeah.
And I noticed when the storms come, that Dayton is always at the end of the storm. It doesn't get the brunt. It always goes from south to New England or from west, and this is us. And I think we're blessed here.
Yeah.
I really do.
I mean, we've missed the brunt of it a couple
Yeah,
times.
most of the other parts of the country have had significant,
Yeah, and I can explain too, this is, all right, so when you look at this map, talking about, just use it as a map, not really what the data shows. You know, you got the Appalachian Mountains that run down here all the way into North Georgia. The areas of low pressure that drive these winter storms don't like to ride over the top of the mountains. They'll end up favoring either off towards the west of the mountains, which will put us on the warm side of a lot of those winter storms. So when Chicago's getting hammered with blizzard conditions, you have blizzard conditions all the way to northwest Indiana, we're getting rained upon. Then the nor'easters like to take the track up the east coast and feed off the warm Gulf Stream waters, and then we're either getting barely any snow or we're just missing out completely. So, I think if you look at all the storm tracks for that, the Appalachian Mountains kind of cause a split in the storm tracks.
Is there a relationship between hot summer and what kind of winter?
Not necessarily. Yeah. And speaking of the heat, in addition to the snow, I went to look and see, are we really noticing more extreme heat across our area? Heat stress is one of the most dangerous weather-related things that you have to deal with. It kills more people than anything else in weather, even though it's kind of not really exciting. It's just hot. Some good news for our part of the country. This black line is nearly stationary all the way from the 60s onward. So our number of 90-degree days every year is not really going up. That's good. I think a lot of these numbers, you see a lot of heat prior to the 1930s. I think a lot of that is kind of bad data. Starting in 1935, that's when records started being kept at the airport, as opposed to somebody just going out and looking at it and reporting it. So when you look at all the data that we have from modern weather observation, this number is relatively stable. So, yes, ma'am. Yeah. Right. I looked into that too. I don't have a slide for that today. And we'll just get into the questions part now, because that was my last slide. The topography doesn't really decrease that much going towards the Great Miami River. So there are other parts of the country where I think living in a valley could really affect the weather, but this part of the country is flat. So it really wouldn't, there's not a significant drop off in elevation to change the weather. But a lot of people ask me that, and they tell me that, and stuff goes around because we live in the valley. Yeah, we live in the Miami Valley, but it's not really, it's flat. The changes our weather pattern? No, but the flood was really important as much as it was a disaster in 1913. That flood, 1914?
No.
13, yeah. So, because of that, the Miami Valley Observatory built all the dams and the levees. And a lot of other parts of the country, when they built infrastructure responding to a disaster, it's ended up being overcome by another disaster. They built such a large dam and levee system that it hasn't been really tested since, which is pretty impressive. So that event was bad, but it made us a lot safer in terms of flooding now. All right. So my last slide was that our main concern here is just the increasing number of tornadoes. But now I just want to open it up. What do you want to know about the weather, TV news, severe weather? Ask me anything. Everybody's Vegas due the first week of October. Look.
It's important stuff here.
Yeah, but, so Britley and my wife are both due basically the same time. So me and Britley are gonna go out on parental leave for a while. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So we have, freelance meteorologists are gonna help us out during that. McCall is gonna come back and work a couple shifts during that.
Oh.
Yep. She's signed up for 4 shifts so far. They're all on the weekends. We'll get through it. It's gonna, from a scheduling standpoint, me and her being out at the same time, it's like, ooh, that's gonna be interesting. Yeah.
I would remember the real story reading about the personality that you presented and the way you present it now. I'm very, very serious. And now people interact fast,
Yeah, happy
you know,
fun.
so I mean, how is that affecting your ratings, you know? People, you know, that when you get from each other and.
I think it's important that your on-air people look like they get along and that they do truly get along, because, yeah, why would you want to watch stale personalities on there? Younger people don't watch TV newscasts as much as older people do, so if we're going to attract a younger audience, it's got to be a little more entertaining and a little more friendly than just, all right, here's the news, look like it's so serious, and just keep moving on. We try to evolve a little bit with that, but CMG, Cox Media Group, and WHIO is still pretty serious, I think. You know, we don't have a Tegna TV station in this market. You guys know, you heard of Tegna? They own a lot of TV stations. They do a lot of goofing around, a lot more than what we do. I think I saw you.
Oh, okay, I just wanted to know how many, I know you have weather specialists and you have meteorologists. What's your total, number of staff that you have, the number of specialists?
When we're full-time, when we're fully staffed, it's 4. Nick is,
Support?
yeah, we call Nick a weather specialist because he's still working on going to school. Nick is interesting because Nick taught himself everything without going to college. He's very good. He's very good. He's incredibly smart, but he still has to get a degree. So
that's it, just
which is tough. I mean, it's tough when you lose a meteorologist and you have to hire. You can't hire right away for some reason, or if you lose your 2 main meteorologists to parental leave, like you have to find ways to make that schedule work because the news is always going to come on. So, but that's not a challenge unique to us. That's every TV station.
you had a lot of behind the scenes.
No, it's just us. We do it all.
So when you make your news, forecast, do you ever like look at the other channels to see if you guys are on the radio?
If it's a
That's a good one.
when there's a really big event, sometimes yeah. But most everybody watches us. So and we get the TV ratings every day. And so I know most people watch what we said, so we need to get it right. I don't really care what the other guys say. We need to get it right. Yeah.
One of the things I really used to enjoy about Christie's on TV
No.
was she pulled in all the planetary and the astronomy things. That
Yeah.
if this planet is going to be visible on this day, or you're going to be seeing, you know. So I know that was kind of, it seemed like you all probably have your little thing,
That was her.
but that was her thing, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, maybe we
just
should bring
knowing
some of that
oh,
back.
you're going to see the planet Jupiter or that kind of thing.
Yeah, I looked up and noticed there was something next to the moon last night, and I thought, Thursday probably would have told everybody what it was.
The moon was gorgeous
Yeah,
last night. Yeah,
blue
so
super
closest
moon.
it's gonna be to Earth.
We'll be there tonight too.
I think this should be the last night of full moon, I think. But yeah,
That's
maybe we
always
can.
interesting too, when the different moons of the month have a different name.
Yeah, and when Kirsty would talk about this, Kirsty had so many weather hits in the morning. The morning's just 2.5 hours long, so that definitely broke up the repetitiveness a bit too. Interesting.
It was really good.
Yeah.
I wanted to understand the educational aspect of it, because you were saying this other person has to get their degree, but what does, I mean, they talk about the weather, station or whatever in Wilmington.
On the National Weather Service.
Yeah, National Weather Service. So they don't do any training or anything like that.
Oh, yeah, they are full on. So the Weather Service, they're incredibly smart people too. They most likely not only have a bachelor's degree in meteorology, they probably have a master's degree specializing in something. And so the National Weather Service will put out their official forecast, but they're also the folks that issue all the warnings. So we don't issue any warnings. We just communicate. But they have their role in the weather enterprise. They're fully trained meteorologists, etc. And then we are on basically the communication side of the business.
So who is, I'm trying to, I don't remember his name, but one time we were having a really bad weather event, and this man was working with you, and I don't remember his name.
That would be Nick. We call it.
He's a middle-aged man, or
Yeah, he's about, I think he's 30.
stout man?
Yeah, that's Nick.
Young man.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you guys were really good together.
Well, thank you very
And
much.
I loved him in the science because he kept referring back to the weather, National Weather Service, and then he kept saying what different things meant.
Yeah.
And it was just, you guys were really, really good together.
Yeah, so when we are in what's called wall-to-wall coverage, it's best to have two meteorologists. So you're gonna have the chief meteorologist will be at the chroma key, that's where I was standing, and then Nick is gonna be driving. So my job is to be like the play-by-play guy. Recognize something, go there, tell people their safety information. Nick's at the weather podium, and he's got 3 different computers in front of him. One is the radar, one is a regular graphics computer, and one is a chat line with the National Weather Service. So during tornado coverage, the Weather Service is always putting out messages of, hey, we're seeing this rotation tighten up. We may issue a tornado warning here. And it makes it seem like we have a leg up on what is about to happen before it happens. So while I'm giving the play-by-play of it, Nick is also off camera analyzing different stuff that he's seeing in the storm. And so he can provide that extra context of what's happening, because he can look at multiple radar products at once while I can only see what's on the screen. He also always has Google Maps and landmarks pulled up. So if you can tell people that, hey, there's a Shell gas station that this is about to hit, as opposed to just the crossroads, that may make people act as well. So we have 2 different jobs during that. And on March 14th, we had never done that together. He had never driven the radar for somebody, and I had never had someone drive for me. I had always been myself. So it's just interesting how well it ended up working. And then we've done that a couple more times since.
That's the same event that I saw, and I thought he's really good. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of you. I mean, and you all made everybody feel very secure in the information that you were giving.
Well, thank you.
And so kudos to you all, and please tell him,
Oh, I'll tell you.
you all, really, really did a great job.
Yeah, thank you. That's another part of it too. You gotta not sound scared or stressed out at work. It's stressful, I can promise you. But we try to stay as calm, cool, and collected as we can, because it's as stressful as it is for us. More people that are scared for their lives while something's tearing through their town. We try to keep everybody calm and safe.
I can see why, that one McCall was crying. Oh, yeah.
Because you got,
2019.
yeah.
Well, but the other thing is, humans have a tendency, it ain't no big deal, it's a little rain. So it's important that from her, you can share the seriousness of it.
Yeah. And so McCall that night, through that point in the coverage, McCall was by herself, which is always harder than being on a team. So that's why she was standing at the weather desk. And so when you're seeing that signature of lofted debris through a highly populated area, it's like a doctor seeing something really bad on a radiation scan that they don't want. That's bad news. You gotta tell somebody. So we feel that. She felt that. She showed it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and then you've got the people online going, why don't they turn the Olympics back on? Why are they
Yeah.
doing that?
I know.
You're crazy as a tornado.
Yeah, that's why so during coverage, I keep my phone on me, because I also have the radar on my phone that I can look at. But I do not get social media, because they're awful. People are very, very mean. But
They
Oh,
are.
that's sad.
We want American life.
I remember understand why people like that.
Yeah.
They are.
We were, covering tornadoes in Georgia, me and my chief and mate, we had to cover a tornado warning when Tiger Woods was, about to win his last Masters. And Ben is over here just sweating because we know it's coming. It's right outside the viewing area. A tornado warning comes on, we have to go on. Like, that's not an option. We got to go on. And we got so much hate mail.
You know what? The key is having a split screen.
But we,
Show the weather and then a little window showing whatever the event is.
and so at HIO, we can do that.
Yeah.
Because we're not a duopoly. We were a duopoly in Macon, and we couldn't show the CBS sports feed on the CW. So our hands were tied there. Here, yeah, we can do that. It's very small, but we can do it. I think we did it for soccer one time.
I know they did it for the Olympics.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
On Channel 2?
Yeah, they,
Excuse me, you have to be on the same network, though, is
Yeah,
what you're saying.
yeah, so if you're a duopoly, you can't take, I mean, I guess you
What do you
can.
mean duopoly?
If your TV station services more than one network, you
Oh,
can't do
okay.
that. Like we are just CBS. But in Macon, we were CBS and the CW. So when we provide news to both places, you can't take one network speed and put it on the other without getting in trouble. So,
that's really interesting.
I just was wondering, because to me it seems like the last few years, like Cincinnati is getting worse snow and stuff than we are. Like, I live north of 70 now, it used to always be, oh, north of 70, north.
Yeah.
But now it seems like
It went south.
Cincinnati,
It's going south.
I know. Is that, have you seen that trend,
I
or
mean,
am I just imagining that?
technically, they've had less snow than we have for the last 3 years. I think they see worse impact out of stuff though because they're hilly. I mean, I remember I was working on mornings and both Dayton and Cincinnati had about a half inch of snow overnight. We didn't have that bad of travel issues, but everybody was wrecking down there. And one of the meteorologists didn't even make it in time for her show because of how bad the roads were off of just a half inch of snow. So
Cincinnati, that's good.
yeah, it's a lot hillier than.
Well, it
than what we
depends on
have.
how much you have to put down.
Yeah, they may have less. I'm not 100%
They
sure. there.
have the tendency not to be a city of law.
Yeah, I know growing up in North Georgia, we would miss school. It was great, but we would miss school for a lot less than what they closed for up here.
But Columbus always had more snow than us.
Columbus does average a little more snow than
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you look at the map, or when you look at the amount of snow each year, Dayton and Cincinnati compared to like Cleveland and Toledo, I mean, it's significantly less than what they have.
I like it though.
Is a beast.
You know, I was living in Lakewood, Ohio, and on one side of the road was snowing, and the curb was dry.
Yeah.
And I mean, just like a wall.
Yeah. I don't envy the meteorologists have to forecast that. It's gotta make them pull their hair out every year. Because if you take like Buffalo or somewhere like that, for example, if the band sets up here, the models aren't good enough to resolve that. So the models are only good enough for you to recognize the pattern. So you may tell somebody we're gonna have lake effect snow. This person over here is getting sunshine, and this other person over here is getting dumped on for hours.
I've seen it.
It's just wild. I'm glad we don't have to do that. It's frustrating enough catching a northwest flow off of Lake Michigan in the wintertime, because that'll burn you here for clouds and flurries when you tell somebody it's gonna be sunny, but we don't have the get buried effect. Yeah.
So I wanna thank you, Austin. Anybody else with any other questions?
I just had a caveat, I moved to the Valley in 1979, and I was working out at the VA, and the reason why they built that new hospital is because this area is in an earthquake zone. And so, especially,
Dayton area?
oh yeah, that's why we got the new hospital, and so, if you go a little bit farther north, I guess around Troy in that area, there's earthquakes there.
Yeah, there's faults. There's also a fault through Mercer County, I'm pretty sure. We haven't had anything big lately. That's good.
Oh.
Knock on wood.
I worry about St. Louis because that fault is a little bit
Yeah.
further south, but actually will affect
Agreed.
it. I don't know
So
what
do
it is.
you all specialize in that at all, or know anything about that? Cause I lived in LA and have been in mini earthquakes.
Yeah, and there's no way to forecast that that's gonna happen, you know?
Yeah. It doesn't affect the weather then.
No, it doesn't affect the weather, but we would, if it happened, we would report on it. I mean, I have a graphic ready to go that says earthquakes, and it would populate in the data from the US Geological Survey. But as far as forecasting it,
Well, thank you, Austin. One thing that you did say that I was really struck by was how giving us bad news impacts you all. And so we do have to have empathy for you and everybody that is giving us the news. My degree's in journalism,
yeah.
but I know how hard it is. And I think Channel 7 has the most professional group of people in newscasts that I've seen ever. I mean, I lived in LA and worked at NBC, and it was a joke to me how they delivered the news. And it was nothing like how they deliver the news here and how professional Channel 7 is. But kudos to you. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us and giving us this information. We really appreciate it.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, very good, thank you. Here's your,
Oh, yeah, my jump.
yeah, hold on, let me,
Okay, so everybody, please make sure that you get your tickets to your organization. Ask them, let's do this immediately. We only have 6 weeks until the Citizen Legion of Honor. We need to reserve your table. And we really want everyone, all of